Hey Sasha, how you doing?
Hi. Uh, I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but
You will in a
I
minute.
sense a
You will.
struggle.
Yes, it's always a struggle. You could say that anytime and it would be true. Oh
Question:
boy.
Were you on
Yes.
earlier?
No.
Okay, because somebody was on earlier because I had to do that thing. I joined 3 minutes till. Howdy there, I can
Yes.
see you. Captain
Yes.
Rat T-shirt. Yeah, right on. Um, that's great. Yeah, I joined. So I'm gonna wait for a couple minutes because I joined 3 minutes early instead of 5 minutes early, and so I Zoom said you have to end the other meeting. I'm like, okay, great. So somebody joined. And they were probably sitting there going, seeing a message that host will join, or I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's just another way that Zoom is awful because um I should be able to, if people are waiting, I should be able to join and not restart the meeting and kick them off. I don't know what is with that. Like, yeah,
That's so weird. I did not know that happened
it's just
actually.
part of the terrible design of Zoom.
Uh,
Anyway,
yes.
all right. Yeah, so well, at least I
We
should
can just
start.
like hang out and BS for a bit. I'm
Yeah,
fine
yeah,
to.
totally. Why not? Um, how's your sleep? I'm worried about your sleep.
I slept pretty well last night,
That's
but
good.
it's yeah, just I think it's hard. You know how it is. It's like there's so many different moving parts.
Yeah.
So I've been doing this low carb thing, and I think it makes me tired.
Okay, so then you're tired during the day, and then you sleep like shit during the night, right?
So it's like it's a combination. It's like a one-two punch. That
Yep.
there's this magical elixir. It's an electrolyte mix called LMNT, and there are a million of
LMNT.
those.
Oh,
There's like
element. Okay, like element.
yeah,
Okay.
element. Oh, I didn't even know.
Element with no vowels. Wow.
I I didn't make that connection. Thank you.
Without all the fatty vowels.
Exactly. So I've tried all these different ones where it's um, mm, liquid IV
Jesus.
and so on and so forth, Gatorade. And it's the one thing that works really well. So if
Hmm.
I don't take it, I sort of fall apart and get
Okay.
sleepy during
Wow.
the day. It's all very so. Um, but yeah, I about to get better. I'm very excited
Oh, that's
to
good. That's good to
just have
hear.
a slightly better, more hopefully operational
That's good.
brain. Hello, Melanie.
Hey, Melps, how you doing? I have this terrible feeling that Melanie's so busy these days that she's like working on slides while she's in this class,
I
like on the
I
treadmill or
I
driving
support
somewhere.
her
Right.
100%.
I have not. For once, I'm not working this weekend that
Oh,
I
that's
know of.
good.
So
That's
at
good.
least not too much. Maybe a few
Yeah.
emails.
Okay.
It must be. Oh, I'm sorry. There's some stuff in the background. It must be very intense because you did the whole FDA thing, if I remember.
Yes, it is very intense. We're hoping to hear Friday about our second program.
Mm.
Getting no, it's not the drug approved, but it's approval to go into the clinic to test the drug in patients. So
Hmm. Cool.
Wow.
Like humans.
exactly.
Mm. That's very exciting. Well, cool. All right. We're going to get rolling because out of respect for, hey, Melanie, were you on this call before earlier?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody was on earlier because sometimes you know how it is when you join a Zoom and it's like the message is probably something like waiting for the host. When I join, if somebody else has
Waiting
already
for a
been,
host. Yeah.
yeah. So if I join and somebody's already been on, for whatever reason, Zoom gives me no option except for to kick that, like destroy that meeting and start a new one. And I don't
Oh.
know who that is. So I refresh the invite in case somebody needed the link because sometimes I get these 5 minute before the class emails from people saying, "Can you please resend the link?" And I'm like, "Yes, sure." It's 3 hours later, but yeah. Anyway, all right, let's party. Um, so Escape from Planet Me. This one's about making something with a friend, and I I think that I don't know where everybody is in terms of like having locked in on the Planet Me concept or done the journaling about it or try to discover what it means to them or whatever. But this one is the culmination of the my little series this month on it. So I introduced the concept. I described it as a place you go that's other than here and other than now. It's a time you go that's other than now. So you have your mind on something else, either the past or the future, because I think that's the only two options aside from now. Probably there is a whole team of scientists or AIs working on a third option besides now. That would be kind of fun. But and then I talked about dislocation in relationships and how that's sort of a three-legged stool, in my view, that having your emotional energy bound up in a different place in a different time means that you drop the ball in relationships or you react to things the wrong way in relationships. And that's my perception of it. Hi, Martha and Paul. Hey, question, Martha and Paul, were you all on the call before and got kicked off today? Unmute.
We may have been because
Okay.
Paul tried to get on and then
Okay.
anyway.
No problem. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. I started the call at 3 minutes till, and there was somebody on there, and I had no choice from Zoom except to blow away that old call and start new. Anyway, okay, so we're talking about the first session on the third about introducing Planet Me, and then we did some on the 10th we did some journaling to try to get an experience of what it's like for individuals, what is it like for each one of them, because this phenomenon. Matt's aware that Matt did not invent this. Why is Matt talking about himself in the third person? I'm I'm aware that I did not make this up. I made up my little name for it, but I know, and but I also especially know that it's different for everybody. If it's true for you, it's probably you probably have a different way of describing it. So the 10th and the 17th, I led some journaling exercises where the object was to try to collect your thoughts and to try to give yourself some notion of, oh yeah, okay, that's the way that works for me. That's what it looks like for me. Um, so that instead of just me talking at you, you would be showing yourself whether any of this stuff resonated with you or not. And then, because the object of this is not so much escape, but mapping the ability to navigate back when you realize you're in Planet Me and you don't want to be there, I feel like it's important to do something that gets you out of being isolated or out of your own little frame of reference. And before you go plunging out into the world to try to go, hey, I've decided I'm here now. What's going on? I think it's important to take the preparative step to build a home base and start establishing a regular ability to go into some kind of home base pattern, whatever that is for you. Some people it's distance running, or some people it's taking walks, or some people it's doing other stuff. But I've written actually, I've posted something pretty much every week this month that kind of describes my relationship to this stuff. And so the problem with Planet Me is that sometimes it involves like lots of things that kill you, like cigarettes and alcohol and whatever. So when you take those away, a lot of times we don't make any plan to replace the thing they were doing for us. So building a home base is about establishing a progressively less toxic or less expensive or less alienating way to feel like you know where you are and you know what you're doing. Instead of buying a cigarette, putting it in your mouth and lighting it on fire to know that you're breathing, you could just focus on your breath and count them. Right? That's a really direct example of that. And I love buying cigarettes and putting them in my mouth and lighting them on fire. I'm telling you, if it didn't kill me, I would still be doing it because it's the most delicious habit. It's so stupid and antisocial, but God, I really enjoyed it when I did. But there are like a billion of those, right? And to me, home base is about making something that each time you remake it, because you have to remake it all the time. Um, each time you do it, you're like, oh, I don't really need that part of it. I don't need 700 Dr. Peppers, or I don't need a stock of like Kellogg's Frosted Flakes cereal every time I want to feel comfortable. I can actually leave that part out and maybe put something a little bit less uh, degenerative in its place. So, but again, building a home base is before you go out into the world, you plan a reduce, a place you can go back to, an Alamo you can go back to. This is the part where making something with a friend is about having established, that you, in whatever ways you check out, and then establishing a place where you can check back in and you're comfortable with it and it's your thing. Then you go, I'm going to try reaching out and making something else. And I wanted to, I think I've alluded to this a little bit, but making something with a friend can be, there's like a lot, any different kind of, it's very open. I've deliberately made it really open. There's only kind of a few things in there. Making something that is, um, you're there, something appears after you were there that wouldn't be there if it weren't for you, but also including someone else in there. And that thing could be a song, an event, a building, an invention, a new word, um, a new flavor of ice cream. It could also be an act of service. It could be like, yeah, we found somebody who was having trouble with some little area in their life, and we looked at it and thought about it, and I gathered somebody else together with me, and we went and tried to address that need. We tried to help that person. That can be a real ticket out of isolation into reality. Um, and that can be in a lot of different ways. You could pick up a stray animal and bring it to the shelter. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. But making something doesn't have to be, I got a cookbook and created a cake, but it could, right? So we're going to do some looking into that. And as usual, I've planned to generate some ideas. So I'd like you guys to get your pens out, get your journals out, and I'd like you to start speed writing 100 things you could make. And you might get 100, you might get 500, but it's more likely you might fall short of 500 because 100 because I'm only going to give you like 4 minutes. So start now, just any kind of thing you like to make or you don't want to make. Write out a list of 10 things you don't want to make, you're not going to make, and then some other things you will make. Go. Okay, 1 minute left. Okay. Hope you got at least a few lines done. Hopefully you didn't sit there tapping the pen most of the time. Now let's do speed write really fast. I'm only going to give you 1.5 minutes for this with a friend. So speed write 10 people you could work with. Just write those. Go. Sweet Jesus. I've been talking for 3 minutes. Okay. No one said anything. What is with you people? Okay, so anyway, let me go back. What's the last thing you heard me say?
We were
Doing
writing
work. Yeah,
10,
okay.
10 people that we
Sweet
could work with.
glory. Okay, and I gave you 1.5 minutes that turned into 4.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We thought you went for a cigarette.
Yeah. Right. Standing here moving my mouth without talking. Okay. So resistance. This idea comes from Stephen Pressfield. who wrote a book called The War of Art. When I was talking about this the first time on mute, I saw somebody, I think it was Sasha, make a note, and so I imagined that people were hearing me and writing things down. So, The War of Art is basically Stephen Pressfield's magnificent book about getting about the business of writing and creating things. And I think it really applies to anything: visual arts, dance, recipes, building things, building a business, making class, anything. In this way, for me, like there's a lot of things in there, but the one I really think pays out is the idea that you should expect resistance when you set about trying to create something that doesn't exist yet. You should expect it and you should plan for it, and you should not be surprised when it shows up. Um, when it shows up, you should already have a chair ready for it. Like, oh yeah, we were expecting you. Now you know now you have some idea of what to do with it. That's a really important notion. And um, there are lots of ways to deal with resistance from the inside, and ways to deal with resistance from the outside. So I have one set of prompts that's on a slide that's coming up next, but I'm just going to read it out to you. And then I have another, and that prompt will deal with resistance from the inside. And this is the best prompt I've ever seen for dealing with internal resistance, but there are lots of them because it's sneaky. There's a lot of different kinds of ways that it can get you. Um, the easiest way to explain it is if you take just a minute right now and take one of the ideas, that whether you're going to do it or not, and explain in detail why you cannot make it. So take a minute right now, just pick one of the things that whether you're going to make it or not, and just explain in detail all the reasons that you cannot make it happen. That's a really great way to start. So I'm going to give you just a minute or so to take one and say, well, I can't do it because of this and that, and get detailed. Get detailed and specific about it. Go. I want to stop you on that one now and say that that's basically a boomerang prompt, because what that usually does is, if you do it correctly, and if you're working with something that you actually want to do, you will gradually find yourself identifying the things that will stop you from doing it, and then having the second thought, which is, oh, actually, I could go get something that would make that impassable obstacle totally manageable. Or I could share these obstacles with somebody else and they could go, oh, well, you could do this for that one. And then, well, that one, oh, I have a router in my garage I never use. You can have it. Or whatever weird thing that you can concoct. Um, it's interesting to get detailed about all the reasons you can't do something. And then it's kind of like, you know what it is? Here's what it is. There's that saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Well, another way to say that is if you want to make God laugh hysterically, tell him all the reasons you can't do the thing you've decided to do, and you will get probably belly laughs. And so those things are both equally hilarious, I think, from the perspective of a non-existent deity. Um, but it's a good exercise to do. So that's resistance from inside. And that's a whole thing, right? That's a big topic. And what I want to say is that next month, I'm going to make it all about going back and forth between two ideas. One of them is outside stimulation, a la B.F. Skinner. So that's are you a rat in a maze being stimulated by lighting, by little pellets being dropped in to reward behavior? Or do you want to think about flow states? So that's the polarity we're going to be talking about all through June. And we'll probably deal with some ideas about resistance, but mostly it's going to be about what's the recipe for a flow state? Like, what is it? What are the ingredients that enable you to have the world disappear and forget what time is because you're so engrossed in doing something? And in case you haven't noticed, this whole framing of making something with a friend is not in the context that we usually put it in, which is so you can get rich or you get famous or get rock hard abs or whatever. It is as an activity of mental hygiene, of getting out of yourself. And so the reason people usually set about making something is for some other reason. They want the reward. They want the Skinnerian, like kibble. They want something marvelous. They want likes. They want stims. They want something. Um, and that's not the same as deciding you're going to do something because it feels delightful, because it'll get me out of my box, because it will end my isolation. The thing itself, it's not that you're not trying to make it as good as you possibly can and make something that's wonderful. It's that the reason you're doing the activity is different than, all right, get up on stage, put some sand on this thing and dance for me, and let's see if anybody likes it. Like that's the nightmare scenario a lot of us put in our minds about when we have to make something. Like, oh, I have to make something, but it can't be good. It can't be as good as somebody else's. Therefore, what's the point? Like, that's not what we're trying to do. Um, so we'll talk about that in flow states because there's and the recipe that I've got for it. It's really simple. It does handle it needs to be something significant for you, right? If you don't care about making the thing, then it's not going to be absorbing for you. That's pretty simple. The rest of this class period, we're going to talk about resistance from the outside because I found that there is a magic ingredient to dealing with resistance from other people. And when I say resistance, I don't mean, no, you can't do that or I won't help you. I mean, well, what kind of thing is this? Like, I don't know. You know, people, and the way I hear other people talk about what I'm trying to do sometimes can paralyze me because I interpret it in a weird way. I usually interpret it the worst possible way first, and then I build on that. That's what I usually do. And by the way, often I will take one little tiny hint of response from somebody and go away in my own little cave and massage that into this humongous problem, right? To make it absolutely impossible without talking to them, asking them, whatever. So the magic ingredient for getting out of resistance from the outside is curiosity. And it turns out that in my experience, curiosity has lots of different forms and lots of different potential granularities. And now it's time for Matt to tell a joke. He's gone back to the third person for a moment, but he'll be back. Here's the joke. Ready? So, um, there's a wise person. Let's say he's a weird dude who hangs out in the corner. He's got leaves in his hair. Nobody knows where he's from. He has a weird accent, but people come to this person and ask questions, and they always get really great advice. But one thing that people have noticed about this person in this community is that he never gives a straight answer. And people are like, did he ask you a question after you asked him a question? He did that to me too. What the hell is that all about? So finally, somebody gets together. Somebody gets, everybody's valuing this person's input and they're really considering this person a sage and a wise person. But somebody gets up the nerve to go up and ask a direct question about this habit that this person has. So they're like, and everybody's probably heard this joke a million times. So, hey, Bob, with the leaves in your hair, what is it with you? Why do you always answer a question with another question? And Bob, of course, says, so what's wrong with a question? So there's a way to come back from a question or some kind of weird response that you think is as resistance from somebody. And there's a way to ask a question in like a threatening way or a dismissive way or a nasty way. And that can often be the first response you have. Like, why is it so important for you to know that? that can sound kind of like menacing, right? Like shove off. Or, if you ask that a different way, I won't punch you. Like, there's a million ways to put something into interrogative form, but still have it be kind of uninviting or closing things down. So what I want to suggest about working with resistance from other people is that it's not that easy to do, especially in your first time. So it requires a little practice. So I'm going to read out some questions that are meant to be examples of responses to people that I think that they're like fourth or fifth draft questions, right? Because the first, like I said, often the first response you get, the first response that comes to your mind if somebody asks you a question that you find kind of like, are you trying to shut me down? Like, can be a little bit blunt. And so I found that like digging a little bit, practicing and drafting these and having them in your back pocket can actually help you not just diffuse a situation, but also like enable you to learn more and find out if the thing you think is resistance is actually not resistance at all, but something else, or if somebody's resisting one little part of this. So let me just get to the examples because I'd like to suggest that you maybe copy down a few, and you can always interrupt me and ask me to repeat one. At least I'm not on mute right now, I'm pretty sure. So that's something. Okay, so I'm going to read a big pile of these, and I'd like you to don't try to copy down all of them. This recording will be available on Substack later this week, but just grab the ones that you think. So here's an example of a shutdown one. Why is it important for you to know that? Right? Or is it important for you to know that? Like if somebody says, like, is that your brother? Like you don't have to. There's some things you do want to shut people down. Like people being annoying, you can just say, I why are you asking that? Right? That's a shutdown one. But here's a couple of them that I think are further along in terms of hoping to open up the collaboration instead. Have you already decided your reaction to what I say? Is it possible you're mistaken about something important here? Here's one that never fails to make things good, at least gives you a chance. Can you give me a few moments to think about what you're really asking before I respond? One of my friends calls this a stop and think. I need to take a stop and think because you asked me an interesting question and I want to get it right. Like, can I take care of myself a while before we keep talking? Like, if you're trying to build something and it might be important to you, you might be holding on to a little candle with the shaky hand going, I'm trying to make this glow, but I feel weird about the question you asked. So I want to just go away for a second and come back. Okay, give me 5 minutes. All right, give me 3 minutes. Take 30 breaths, whatever. Is there a perfect outcome here that would help you see it better? That's a possible one. Okay, another question. Who else sees things the same way as you do? Or who else do you think sees things the way I do? Here's another one. To acknowledge that people's point of view on things changes. When does your view of this change? Does that change? Like, did it look different yesterday and now it's going to maybe look different tomorrow? Like, what do you think? Do we need to come to this decision right now? Hmm. Do we know everything we need to know in order to judge this situation? This is one for the doctor. When will we find out more? If you ask somebody a question and they go, I don't know. And you go, well, when are you going to find out? Like, when is Santa Claus coming? When are we going to get to the rest stop? Another follow-up. What should we do in the meantime? Or what can we do in the meantime? Now, here's the one that people call the magic wand question. If you could change just one thing about this situation, what would it be? Now, what's cool about this one is a lot of times someone will say, like, make a resistance to something like, I would play drums on your song, but I'm out of drumsticks. But what they don't really, they're not talking about drumsticks at all. They have plenty of drumsticks, or that's not the problem. What really is they don't like the song or whatever. They can't record with that person in that studio, or, that recipe has nutmeg in it. That's a non-starter. It can't be around nutmeg. I don't even know. I don't know how to talk to somebody who likes nutmeg. But if you ask the magic wand question, a lot of times that will give you the weird information that they're kind of withholding because they don't want to be rude or they don't want to say something that's maybe personally exposing to them. Um, Here's another weird one. What would you want if you were me? If you were me, what would you want? Here's another great one. What am I missing that's totally plain as day to you? I could probably improve my day 500% if I asked that every day to everyone I encounter. My mastery of the obvious is really limited sometimes.
What am I missing?
What do you need to know that I'm missing?
Yeah, what am I missing that's totally plain as day to you? And just a couple more. What if this does not get better? Whatever this is. What if this thing that we're considering doesn't get better? And then the corollary, what if this gets a whole lot better? Now, I would like to, before we go to the breathing part, I would like to ask people to talk a little bit about making something with a friend or resistance or anything that they'd like to kick around.
Mm.
I was going to say that when you were first talking about making something with a friend, I was sort of, I think, being fairly literal, or just my mind went to the obvious, which is you're making something. It's like a project, or
Mhm.
but I liked it when you said acts of service because that had not, my mind had not immediately gone there. And so I have a friend who accumulated a bunch of stuff from somebody else we know. And at some point, the pieces came together and she let me sort of jump in and help her with it a little bit. And then at some point, she just sort of was off and running and took it over. And so it's like an hour and a half or 2 hours. I found that like 2 hours maximum. It was incredibly exhausting, but it just helps so much to have two people there.
Mhm.
And so part of me just thinks, one, it's something of an act of service. It's like you could go to a movie or you
Mhm.
could go and help somebody muck out their basement or
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And but I considered it a great privilege that they let me
Mhm.
do this thing with them. And it's with some delicacy. It's a very sensitive people don't always want you in their space or doing it.
Yeah.
And I just sort of think about how many things had to line up for that to happen. And it's almost like you have to know someone a certain amount of time, and there's a great deal of like trust and just
Mhm.
diplomacy and humor, and how do you make it fun? And I think it was surprisingly fun, especially
Mhm.
because it wasn't my stuff.
Right.
So anyway, so it kind of bridged that idea of like something that there was self-interest because now it's easier for me to go over there and have fun. And
Yeah.
it was fun,
Yeah.
and it was better than hanging out on the phone. I don't know. So it was a good way to frame it.
I love
And
that, Sasha. I really love that. That was because these things are all over our lives already anyway, right? But the context of it, I think, is for me useful to think about, like, how do I want this to go down? Like, what part of my life, my personal freedom, my personal agency, what part of it do I want it to contribute to? Like, I can count acts of service or creating something with a friend as an expression of my own freedom, as an enrichment of my relationships. And there's no doubt about that. And also just something that I do not for the reasons of trying to prove that I have a right to exist or to compare myself to other people, but just to experience, like, really to relish the experience of, oh, this is me doing something with other people and actually paying attention to the character of it. What is it like? So this whole thing about making something with a friend really can expand hugely um, into
I,
a whole thing. Yeah.
I also think that sometimes I'll think of things in terms of as a consumer or as an active agent.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, I like watching certain shows or I like, and those things can be fairly active. I don't want to
Hmm.
be like overly binary with it,
Hmm.
but I like the idea of instead of just consuming media or eating food together or all the
Hmm.
kind of things that are standard, is to say, what can we do
Hmm.
to just have a sense of like something concrete where you can see a before, middle and an after, that
Yeah.
there's some sort of transformation. It's like, watching those shows on YouTube where they take some hideous old cast iron toy that's corroded and they, through a series of steps that turn it into something that somebody might want
Hmm.
or
Yep. Yep.
somehow
Oh yeah.
enhance it. So I think it's made me look for more opportunities with people like that, where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, we could do this, which is relaxing and it's brainless and it's enjoyable. Or, like, is there some thing that, it would help to have a body built for
Hmm. Yeah.
or something like that. So,
I love that.
anyways, I'll start. We'll think about that.
That's awesome, Sasha. Thank you. Okay, folks, I don't want to have to call on people, but I do want to hear from other people if anybody has any thoughts about this. Otherwise, we'll go breathe. Okay, let's do 30 breaths, and then we'll do, I don't know if we'll do belly pulse. Maybe we'll do just box breathing. I don't know. But let's start by sitting up straight and closing our eyes. And maybe roll your shoulders back a little bit, pinch your shoulder blades together a little bit, let them go, let them fall. And I'm going to count breaths. I think everybody's here who knows how I do it, so I'm just going to go. I'm going to do three sets. We'll do 10 with just sniffing in through the nose and then blowing out through the mouth, pursed lips. We'll do those now. So we'll go in and out, and in and out. And gradually they'll get a little deeper in and out. We're going to let them change your posture in and out and in deeply and out, in and out. No big deal. Just in and out. No wrong way to do it. In and out. And in and out. In and out. And I'm going to count three in and three on the out. So in, two, three through the nose, out through the nose, three, in, two, three, out, two, three. Nice and deep. In, two, three, out, two, three. In, two, 3, out, 2, 3. A little deeper in, 2, 3, out, 2, 3. 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 In, 2, 3, 2, 3. Last one this way. In, 2, 3, out, 2, 3. And here we do 4 counts. The 4 count box breathing. I'm going through the nose. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Push it out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In deeply. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Blow it out. 2, 3, 4. Hold it out. 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to go 5. In. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold it out. 2, 3, 4, 5. In. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold it out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to do 6. In. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out. Steady. 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold it out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Last one, we're going to go 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now breathe normally with your eyes closed. Just relax for a moment. And while you're sitting here, my hope is that for you is that some of the list making has maybe planted a little seed. And even if nothing seems doable or nothing seems the way it will, right now, maybe next time you wake up from a nap or next time you wake up in the morning after a nice long sleep, you'll feel like you want to go back to that list and poke around and maybe play with the idea of making something. Uh, Maybe if you wrote a list of people and you decided, oh, I don't know if I want to contact them, that's fine. Just sleep on it, make a decision tomorrow. But my wish for all of you is that you decide that this idea of making something with a friend is so appealing and odd and also completely commonplace and normal that it'll be something that you do for a new reason, which is just because why not? It's part of this class. I'm doing this homework. Will you help me? I want to get an A. I want to be at the top of the class. I want to win big. I want to beat everybody else. I want to crush the competition. That's what I want to win prizes in cash. That's what I want. I want to be famous, God damn it, and leave this town forever. Okay, I'm just kidding. That's the way we used to talk when we were pop musicians in the 70s, 80s. I could buy that chair you're sitting on, you know that? So anyway, now we have a couple minutes. Anybody got any thoughts they want to share, anything they want to just poke holes in or make fun of or whatever? We're gonna flow states is next time. It's not going to be corporate approach at all. It's not. This is not productivity porn. This is not getting you to try to make you do more stuff. But flow states is kind of a cool idea, and I think it's in direct opposition to the way a lot of us are living, or at least we're seeing other people living. Because we're looking at, I think, a Skinnerian nightmare right now with the stemmed worldview of people who are just kind of have learned how to get the pellet in a weird way. And I guess the easiest way to sell a product is to have to not be a product at all. Like you don't have to return anything if there's nothing in the box. But anyway, talk to me. Open up the thing. Talk, make a comment, please, if you want, especially if you haven't said anything yet.
Well, one thing that has occurred to me, it takes me a while sometimes to
Yeah.
think, but was that not only that sometimes doing something with someone, I can think of two things. I won't go into detail. You make a friend.
Yes.
You make a friend by doing something with them. Or,
Yep.
and there's a case I'm thinking about with a sister. When my aunt was dying, being together deepened our relationship so much. So, with a friend, you can deepen it and or make a new friend by doing something with
I like
them.
that, Martha. I think what occurs to me right away is, yeah, I've I've hauled off and started making stuff with some friends, and like I've noticed that yeah, it does deepen a relationship that's existed a long time, and that's been one of the biggest delights about this. But also, I agree that sometimes when you go make something, you just got to grab somebody and find them. Somebody already knows something. You want to, hey, I'd like to do this with you. And then you realize, oh, this is a friendship activity. I have friendship here. And what I've learned is putting the relationship first before making the thing has been a huge learning experience for me, especially because I totally didn't do it that way before. Now I'm thinking, God, I really I need a time machine to go back and do it differently because yeah. But yes, I like what you're saying, Martha. And I the other thing that occurred to me was that sometimes you can't approach somebody face to face, frontally, either an old relationship or a new one, or something that someone doesn't know you, but shoulder to shoulder, when you're both focusing on something that's in the common, like in a common space, oh, all of a sudden, people become less skittish and things become easier. So you don't have to say, "Hey, I'd like to get to know you. What's your deal? I'd like to go pick your brain sometime." Like that's, or what's your story? What's your problem? What's your deal? Like I want to find out. You look like a fun person to hang out with. Let's go. No, like that sometimes can be like, "Wait, what? What? Hello?" And especially as we're adults, like kids can say that to each other and maybe not, we should get in a fight. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Right at 3 o'clock this afternoon, let's fight. That'll be cool. Kids can do all kinds of crazy shit, but adults, we get set in our ways, and then it's like, oh, we're touchy. There's alarms. There's like a ring of like weird tripwires around us all. As we get older, we don't necessarily get more calm and supple and like friendly. We get more like gnarly. So, hey, there's this thing outside of us both that we could focus on. We could scoot things around there. That would be cool. Let's do that. Okay, great. I'll ignore you mostly and you'll ignore me mostly, and we can become friends that way. Like sometimes people just need a not very high touch aspect of friendship, and that's kind of great, but it is doable. It's possible. We'll both wear our protective ear gear and we'll both have, gloves on, and we will not overstim, but we can scoot things around somewhere together and like get to know each other a little bit. So I don't, I hope that it's clear that making something with a friend is deliberately really open, because I know most of the people I know are skittish in one way or another and don't necessarily want to haul off and go, walk up to somebody and shake their hand and try to sell them life insurance. We don't do that anymore. Like it's too intense. But giving something, having something to do, having something to make or to go bowling or whatever. But a lot of times active service can be a real way to color it so that it's got that beautiful golden light of making, unimpeachably making something better for someone else. And that's a pretty cool place to start sometimes. Well, it's been a privilege to spend some Saturdays in May with you. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful end of the month. And I'm looking forward to concocting some new ideas for June. And please send me emails if you want. Or another thing you could do is resolve to invite someone else to come next time. Invite somebody to come check it out and see what it's like. That would be great. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Matt.